Hello everyone, I'm here with Collin from ChallengerTCG who just got 52nd place at RQ Barcelona, the biggest RQ to date in our game. Congrats Collin, how are you feeling about yourself right now?
Excellent. Yeah, it was a great run. I started out as #1 seed actually after day one. Had some unfortunate incidents in set two or day two that we don't need to worry about too much. And yeah, I was still able to get top 64, secure another invite. Yeah.
Right? Specifically also because your deck is an Akali deck. And what's the reason even to play Akali?
Honestly, she's just kind of the new waifu of set four, right? With Ari rotating out in terms of best ofs, Akali was looking to be the next best one. So
Makes sense. Definitely. So basically you were saying it's a big EV.
yes, of course. Whenever you're playing in any of these tournaments, I know a lot of people have talked to me about wanting to win a tournament, but I can tell you that the best of is worth more than any win, or at least
And
specifically
it's
for
probably
this one.
easier to do.
For me, I think so. I tend to specialize in off-meta decks.
Yeah.
I feel like one of my big strengths is being able to outplay my opponents who are making mistakes. And whenever I'm
Because
playing
they're not
something,
prepped for what you have.
yeah, exactly. So I tend to struggle a little bit more when I'm playing the most meta deck. The only time I ever really did that was in Vegas, where I got top 4 with Miracle Draven. But at the time, I didn't even get the best of. So, I walked away from that event with not very much. So ever since then, I'm finding my own spin on things. And I think I'll be sticking with Akali for a little while.
Awesome. Okay, let's take a look at your deck because there are a few surprising things for sure. So, tell me what is the main idea of the deck?
Yeah, so this deck is kind of a mid-range to hold deck. For those who've seen me before, my previous deck was set. And honestly, I took Akali as a deck where I wanted to perform well with and then kind of turned it into my own flavor of set, right? So we're playing big units. We have like our Astral Herons as well as our Ferris Forerunners here as like kind of our big units. Can rearrange this a bit. That are kind of our payoffs. Our Astral Heron is one that we need to commit a few more resources into protecting. One of the best cards, if not maybe even the best card of the most recent set. Astral Heron just lets you get so much value on every single turn, and abusing it works very, very well in this color combination thanks to a few of our spells and gear that we'll get to later. Ferris Forerunner, on the other hand,
If I
is
can
just...
ask you a question about the Astral Heron, many people are going into the Astral Heron hidden strategy, right?
Yes.
You only have like 4 hidden cards here, which is Zhonya's and Backoff. Do you feel like it's enough to establish like an early control of Heron?
Yeah, it's definitely... Sometimes I do struggle without having the hidden card, but I found that most of the hiddens aren't really worth playing, unfortunately. So when it came down to it, I was like, Zhonya's plus Backoff is probably the best combination that I can have.
Yeah, makes sense. And then you have the possibility of using the discount on cards like Longsword, right?
Yes.
Phalanxa, of course, Discipline, all of that is fantastic when you can use it for free.
Definitely.
Cool.
So our main game plan just revolves around utilizing Astral Heron with the hidden Zhonya's, as you said. You can play the Heron, play a free either Longsword or Discipline, Charm sometimes, On Guard, discounted for some of your forecast units if you have enough energy on the same turn that you play it, so long as you're playing it directly to the battlefield. And then, you also have your 2-drops that you can play for free. Obviously, Falling Star being the main one that you can play for free. Then, as you mentioned, with a set card going on your opponent's turn, you can do the exact same thing. So it works out to, I'll say, a decent level. I am of the opinion that this deck is not that good, but in Riftbound, we play for best ofs, right? In my personal opinion, you should always be playing for the best of whatever your legend, and whatever it is that you like, that's what you should stick with. So
I mean, we literally have a top 4 on right now in the RQ, which is insane.
Exactly. So my opinion is stick with what you like, and you'll do so much better. Yeah, literally, as you said, there's a Ornn in top 4, which nobody ever put on their radar, right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay. So mid-range is like pretty set in stone when it comes to this color, right? You have Selakon Herders, you have your... I'll go Kaisas. Do you feel like that's a card that is essential to this deck?
Definitely not essential. I would say that there are a few different strategies that you can go with. Obviously, there's the best of winner who is on Aurelia's instead of Kaisa's pretty much, as well as the Forerunners, which is also a variant that is interesting. Our deck was pretty similar I think we're maybe 8 to 10 cards off.
Okay.
He and I work together on a lot of that stuff. So it's, yeah, just personal preference. For me, I very much so enjoyed the Kaisas. But, you know, yeah, I think you can build her in a few different ways. So long as you stick with the core strategy, then I think it'll work out fine. And then, you know, we also saw a few different variations of Akali that were much more aggressive, that were doing well in day one. There was a 7-1 Akali that was on like Steel Paws. It capped out at Celicorn Herder. It was all low drops with like the Pendulum Axe and stuff like that, just being extremely aggressive. That's not my play style. Obviously, as I mentioned with Set and this, I like to play much more of a hold style of deck.
Yeah, more controlling side, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the spice in the main deck, which is 1 Jhin and 1 Janna.
Yeah.
How effective was the Janna?
The Jays, they were actually pretty good. I was looking as somebody who likes the math behind the curve, and I liked the numbers for having 8 2-cost things I can do on turn 1 between Zonya's and our 5 units here.
Yeah.
And then when it came down to our turn 2, you draw an additional card before you get to that point. So I liked the number of 7 units here to be able to make it work. So I think Jhin is the worst of the 4-cost units that we have access to. Otherwise, obviously, I'd be playing more Jhins. There's some matchups it's quite good, but typically with this deck, you want to be relying on your 4-cost units to draw you cards in order to really get your game plan going. Obviously, we have a ton of spells and a ton of things that we can be doing, so long as we have the cards to fuel it. So I really wanted to prioritize drawing cards and then going from there into some of our higher end for the consistency's sake, right? Janna, on the other hand, was good for those who haven't seen her. She works very well off of an Astral Heron, being only costing 1. Works very well with our battlefield over here being Starspring. Having a reaction speed unit to play out that you can send something back is quite nice. And then the band card Fight or Flight, being on like a body there is quite nice. And I've even had games where she comes up where you play her after your opponent plays like a Bellows Breath out of Ezreal, and then they think they got you, they play the Watcher, and then you just play the Janna and base and heal everybody. So there's a lot of utility out of the 1 slot. So I've liked her quite a bit.
It's definitely a surprising card, although, believe it or not, I actually had a Janna being played against me today.
Oh,
in
wow.
like a side event, but it was played on attack. So that was not exactly...
Not how that works,
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
Yeah, I actually, funnily enough, I tried to do the same thing in the pre-RQ because I was so used to using the new keyword that we have, right? So, yeah, but she was printed and set too, so she does not have the same keywords.
That's true. She doesn't have ambush. Now, Threshold of the Grey. Is it a battlefield that you are happy with?
Yes, honestly, of all my battlefields, I think Threshold's the one I've been the happiest with. Targon's and Starspring, I almost felt like my opponents used better than I did. So it's possible that those will change in the future, but, you know, we'll have to see what I end up submitting for Singapore when it comes to the battlefields. I would say of the list, that's definitely one of the areas that needs the most improvement, just because as a control deck, you're trying to solve the game out until we use our crazy late game. And Starspring is a battlefield that can cause your opponent to be able to like get to the other side very easily sometimes. So while it also does the same for us and triggers all of our movement abilities, it's questionable whether it's worth it or not. So
makes sense. Okay.
But yeah, every time with Threshold, you send a unit in, you can use your Akali ability to get an energy, and it lets you kind of cheat on your curve a little bit and get an extra energy when you need to. So.
Did you like in the tournament were you able to like cheat out a Ferris Forerunner, for example, or an Astral Heron?
Yeah, I was able to actually do a turn 3 Heron on the play, which was quite nice by just sending a unit in and then treating it back and then playing the Heron in base. And it just accelerated me a whole turn, which was quite nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, I wanted to ask 2 questions essentially. One, it's gonna be that Blitzcrank in sideboard because that's pretty spicy, right?
Yeah.
You didn't see that from like Ari back in the day, essentially. And 2, second question, that's gonna be last question for this interview, is gonna be like which cards you would like to cut or change in the future. So let's start with the Blitzcrank.
Yeah, it was honestly, I was just kind of looking. Yeah, here we can get for those who haven't read him, a set 1 card and like you said, an old one. I was looking for kind of a recurring way to be able to utilize the Astral Heron every turn, as there were some matchups where the Heron would stick around, but you would run out of cards to continue playing off of it, right? So the Blitzcrank is one that you're able to play every single turn. So in certain matchups and certain situations, I liked it. There are lots of times where I'm cutting the 2 drops going second because you have a guaranteed turn 1 play and our chosen champion.
Yep.
Right. So most of the time I was just looking for other playables, and that's where I just kind of had like a bunch of random things. You know, the Blitzcrank and the Vile Maw and the first Forerunner were just additional copies of cards that were like,
Yeah.
well, if I'm going to cut the 2 drops anyways, these cards are quite nice to make sure that I have a strong late game in the matchups that I need it. And then usually on the play where I do need the 2-cost units, they go back into the board. So.
Okay, cool. Then last question for this interview. Which cards would you like to change, or which cards were you unhappy with, or which cards were you happy with and you would like to have more of them?
Honestly, it's tough to say. In the matchups where it was relevant, this Decree of Focus was quite good. So if I
All
can,
the decrees are insane. They're just
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
so
God.
I think that one's quite good. Beyond that, I don't know. I'm gonna have to try my friend Haru Kaze's list a little bit and maybe give the Aurelia another shot. So I think that this variation is pretty set in stone. There's only a couple of spots that you can make, and it's really like the spicy stuff. You know, we have like a 1 of On Guard here,
Yeah.
the 1 of Janna, the 1 of Jin. Those are cards that, in theory, could be other things, but beyond that, I think it's pretty set in stone with where I'll be playing this, unless I were to change up the strategy and, like I said, maybe play some Aurelias or something like that instead.
And you're going to Singapore next week? No, sorry, not next week. Like in 2 weeks or something like that?
Yeah. Next week I'll be in China doing a show match, and then
Right.
yes, and then the week after that I'll be in Singapore.
Busy times ahead.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for doing this interview. I know you're tired after this entire event. It has been challenging.
To say the least.
Yes, exactly. All right, well, pun intended fully. So thank you for doing this interview again, and see you guys. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.